All right, I'm glad to be here again today. What we're focusing on today's podcast is don't buy lottery tickets. All right, and this is part of the Millionaire series. A lot of people that I know think that, well, first of all, gambling is a way to potentially strike it rich, but lottery tickets is the ultimate predatory loan. Why it's legal, I have no idea. First of all, the odds of accumulating wealth through a lottery ticket is basically impossible. The same odds of, a plane crashing or a lightning strike hitting you. You've heard the story. What I'm talking about is the Powerball or the Mega Millions, where you pay $1 and you might win over $100 million. So first of all, just to get that out of the way, the odds are nearly impossible. But you ask, what's wrong with just spending $1 a week or $1 a day, just trying to potentially have a chance at wealth? Because I'm poor or broke or lower middle class or even upper class, and that's not that much money to sacrifice in order for such a huge upside. Now, if we take this a step further and we think about just the core gambling proposition, what if we went to Vegas and we played a game that was just slightly in the house's favor? You could maybe play a game of craps where you shoot the dice 100 times, and almost half the time you're going to win, and almost half the time the house is going to win. So that seems like pretty good odds. So you can spend a lot of money and play a long time, and you can get up or you could be down, but for the most part, you're break even. For the most part. However, the house always wins, whether it's 1% or 30% or a quarter of a percent. Over time, the house will always beat you in gambling. That's why when you leave a casino, eventually, if you played long enough, the odds take over. And unless you happen to walk away from the table when you were up and you had the intestinal fortitude to walk away from having fun for the rest of the night, you're gonna lose eventually. So there's really no way you can win in gambling. There are no probabilities, and it's public knowledge that are in the gambler's favor. So again, back to the original point about lottery tickets specifically. Let's talk about the amount of accumulated wealth that you could have if you had simply put that dollar a day into an alternate investment. Well, you say, I don't have a good credit score, so I can't even qualify for a home loan. And even if I qualified for a home loan, I couldn't put a down payment together because it's just too expensive. Okay, I hear you. And furthermore, you might be putting yourself in a bad position if you qualify for a subprime loan, and that's just predatory lending. You'll hear me say this 1,000 times: avoid predatory lending. Even if you have access to capital from a loan, a payday check advance, a car loan, any of these debt systems are bad debt. The only debt that I consider good is a mortgage or a student loan, as long as the mortgage is done with a 20% down payment, so you're not paying PMI, and the student loan was helping you get somewhere in your career, which advanced your ability to accumulate wealth. Those are the two debts I'm okay with. But back to the point at hand, let's just do some simple math. So say that you spent $1 a day on a lottery ticket. So that's $365 a year. And the dream is that you're going to have $100 million someday. Well, we already basically ran through all the scenarios earlier. You're not going to win the lottery. You can try. And you're not going to beat the casino, even with the best odds, which are in Vegas. And the worst odds are playing dollar, lottery tickets, even worse with scratchers. So the $100 million, it's out there. It's hanging out there in this dream scenario that we know you're never going to get. But what if? But you say there's no downside to it. $1 a day, even $1 every other day is not that big of a loss. $365 a year, even if you're making under $10,000 a year, which is who the government preys on for most of these lottery tickets. The lowest classes are the people who are most desperate for money. These are the people who are spending the money on the lottery tickets. They can afford, and you can afford, and I could afford back when I was in this income bracket level. I could afford $365 a year, even on just a very, very small salary. It's $1 a day. Let's just go ahead and fast forward. What if you put that $365 in the stock market? You can't get a home. Buying lottery tickets is just a one-way street to throw your money away. What if you just decided to put in $365 a year, $1 a day, into the stock market? And say you're 20 years old today, and you're going to retire when you're 65. That might sound pretty aggressive, but that's a typical career. And in America, we're not taught to think about saving for the long term. And it's not just America. Humans aren't pre-programmed. We don't have a predisposition to save enough for ourselves to live in retirement. I don't know why. It is what it is. You may have heard me say this before. The marginal propensity to save is only 10%, meaning that we are, at best case scenario, average across all people, we only save 10%. That's not nearly enough to survive when you no longer work for 10, 20, 30 years. All right, so we put our $365 in the stock market in the S&P 500. And the reason this is important is because this is a mid to high risk investment in the short term. But over the long run, the S&P 500 will pay between 6 and 10% a year, basically since the beginning of the stock market. And so we'll say we'll do that for 45 years, 45 whole years. And this is going to be the hard part. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather have $1 today or $164,000 when you're 65 years old? You tell me. Because that $1 a day, statistically, probability-wise, is guaranteed to almost never pay out on a lottery ticket. The odds are impossible, next to impossible, for you to win $100 million. But what I can guarantee you with 100% confidence is that if you put $1 a day into the S&P 500 until you retire for your entire working career, you're going to have $164,000 cash waiting for you. So just remember, intelligent people avoid instant gratification. If you can wait, then you, no matter what your income level, can become rich. So don't buy a lottery ticket.